the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
He made the leap a little bit because he was just so much more confident. I mean, even coming out throwing arrows at Alabama players, like he was not afraid of the moment. And I think that's a big thing for Tennessee because the RPO stuff I think will always make me queasy because it's working, but and Brent said it on y'all's show, he's not a natural runner, so it looks nothing like Hendon Hooker running with the football, where Hendon, you just never had that kind of worry. Joe, it's just like, it's kind of terrifying. Like, he had some really late pitches where he was really, really waiting for a linebacker or cornerback to hit him before he dished it out, and you're like, oh, you can see how this does not keep going in Tennessee's favor week over week. But I just think that is such a critical part of what this offense needs week over week, especially when guys aren't getting open downfield, is Joe's just going to have to put his body on the line week over week for Tennessee to get these big road wins.
Alabama played the speed option really well. Credit Alabama, because you're right. There was a couple of those where Joe's just hanging on to the football, and then he pitches it at the last second, or he turns it upfield. And I love seeing a quarterback, especially if his stature and everything, just turn upfield, make a decision. And there was one of those speed options where he turned upfield and he might have got maybe 2 yards. It was not a big game, but I sat there and I turned to Grant Ramey. I said, I like seeing that. I mean, that's committing. That's making the right decision, and see what happens. Maybe next time you get 12 or 13 yards out of it, whatever the case may be. I like Joe running the football. There's a time and place where you need to protect your body, and Josh Heupel said that they've talked to him about that. But just seeing the willingness, the want to. Because first that free play against A&M, first series of the ball game, when you run out of bounds and the sticks are right there, it's like, what are you doing? And then the next game, when it's third and 7, and you're flush out of the pocket, and you see the sticks and you run, and then you see a guy and you run over him. I love that. I just think that you need to take care of your body. You're right, but I just think that shows just the effort and the want to. Whereas in points in times it hasn't been there. So we'll see. As far as the receivers, people are like, well, you can't say the separation. Well, I mean, there was some separation in the first half, and Alabama made adjustments like good teams do. I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry is an NFL player. Nick Saban is arguably the greatest coach to ever do it. I mean, you make adjustments, and Tennessee had no answer in the second half. And Ramel Keaton had another drop that was going to be for a first down. Oh, man, it's frustrating. So we'll see if something turned for Joe. I think Joe... confidence has never been the issue with him. Absolutely not. I think Joe just saw the field really well. I think he was protective with the football up until the blind side, whiffed by John Campbell, and that was bad. We'll see if he turns the corner. The question is, can you find some consistency? And Tennessee can win this game without great quarterback play, but certainly Joe can make it easier. And if you get up a couple scores, again, I don't think Kentucky's built to come from behind in a football game like this.
It is interesting, though, when you think about the talent differential from 2021 to now. Like, these were not issues. Like, the explosive plays were still there with Velus Jones, Javonte Payton, who I don't know which Tennessee fan or which the Volquest guys here, Eric, who would have had that Javonte Payton would have been an extremely more productive and reliable transfer portal addition than Dante Thornton. But that's how it's worked out. Is Javonte, you knew exactly what you're getting. Touchdown, and then, hey, have a good rest of your day. Like, he was doing his job, and that was it. He was clocking in, getting his work done quick, and clocking out. But that was valuable. Like, he was a valuable piece to what they were doing week over week. And Velus Jones was obviously a big hit from USC. And, I mean, Squirrel obviously used a lot like Velus to this point. But I don't know. I'm so surprised that with the talent there now in year 3 with Heupel, that what we saw 2 years ago, and I understand Hendon Hooker was there, but there's just nothing. That guys are still just not getting open. The big plays are just not there. And you remove some of these squirrel bonkers catches, the numbers get even more putrid. Where,
you're right. I mean, Joe Milton's not throwing the ball well down the field.
Yeah.
I track that every single week. Pro Football Focus. What is constituted as a deep throw 20 yards down the field. And those numbers for Joe Milton, though they were better than they've been all year long last week in Alabama, they're really bad on the season. And you're right. You take away that catch against, was it South Carolina or A&M? Down
South Carolina.
South Carolina from Squirrel, and then the one the other day, they're even worse. It's weird. I had a lot of confidence in the receiver group coming into the year. I recognize you lost Tillman and you lost Hyatt. I get it. But you were bringing back Brew. What you saw from Squirrel, you felt good about it. I thought Ramel Keaton had turned the corner, and he was a true deep threat. And everything we heard about Dante Thornton this summer was he's an NFL guy. He's an NFL guy. And I'm like, okay, well, you lost a lot of talent, but you're feeling really good about that. Dante Thornton's been a no-show to this point. Cedric Tillman's gone. Brew McCoy is now injured. Romel Keaton has battled confidence issues all year long, and it's just been squirrel. And so when you compare what you have now to what you had in 2021, I mean, top to bottom, Tillman, Jones, and Payton, you take those back in a heartbeat for sure. And then you got a better quarterback. So it's a little bit surprising, yes, but then it's kind of like it's not, because I think the group in 2021 is better than what you're seeing now, and the quarterback's better. So I don't know, man. It's been weird. That's why you've seen so many passes out the perimeter, so many screens, so many short gains, and it's just kind of like an extension of the run game where the operation just hasn't been all there. Joe hasn't been all there. And at points in times, the offensive line has not been all there, but the offensive line is kind of coming together. You know who's going to play. And they've still, in terms of giving up sacks, they've been pretty decent all year outside the last couple of quarters of the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, there was an obvious. You never want to be like the drop off where like you notice immediately that Gerald Mincey's not in the game. Where Dane Davis really, really struggled, and I think they really need Crawford back that backup right tackle spot. And it looks like it was a healthy kind of scratch there. Is Dane Davis?
I think he's been passed, man.
Yeah.
And again, maybe that changes this week, but Crawford was dealing with some injuries, and I think in that time Dane Davis just kind of passed him. Now, Dane Davis, according to Pro Football Focus, against the run, he was much. He was a whole lot better, but they were just passing so much at the point in time when he came in. And, I mean, that's you're facing Alabama and you're a backup tackle. It's not going to end well.
Also the backup
center,
time, backup guard, whatever they need. Like Dane Davis, I just couldn't imagine. He just like goes in for the Sunday afternoon meetings, and Heupel's like, or Ellerby is like, left guard this week. And
yeah, like, exactly. You need a guy like that in your roster for sure, but he played really, really well against A&M when coming in. So we'll see. But yeah,
I like him at center because when he's in the game. Like when Dane Davis, because he looked so ridiculous at center because he's just huge. Like he's a huge guy. You never see centers that big. It was just you couldn't look away. I was way too interested in Dane Davis at center.
The fact that Ollie Lane and Dane Davis played center this year for Tennessee, it's really impressive on their part. Yeah, it's really bad when you say, okay, well, why is there not a backup center? Tennessee's not had a backup center since Cooper Mays was the backup center to Brandon Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, really. When you think about it, Jerome Carvin would have slowed over, but he's just starting left guard. Yeah. You need Vice and Lang. Addison Nichols had every opportunity in the world. Maybe it clicks next year. I don't know. You need somebody to step up big time next year because we'll see what Cooper wants to do. The fact that those 2 guys were able to play center was a huge testament to them because they've been nothing but guard and tackle. And then it also means like, oh my goodness, why didn't he have a guy ready? So a little bit.
Ollie kind of saved the season a little bit because he didn't have to come back. Like that was kind of like, can you imagine where Tennessee would be right now if Ollie did not come back those first? I mean, he was a sneaky linchpin to those early games.
And he played. He wasn't perfect, but he had a pretty decent game against Alabama as well. But you're right. I mean, if he didn't come back, who in the world was going to snap the football if it would have played out the same way? He's been huge, and Heupel very appreciative that Ollie Lane came back.
There you go. NIL folks in Knoxville, hit him up for doing a good service here this fall in his last year. Final thing here, and we'll go, Eric. So, biggest thing that you are still wondering about with this team. What is your biggest question for Tennessee the rest of the way that you would like to see answered?
The biggest surprises has been the lack of explosive plays offensively. And so I guess the biggest question is, will it ever be figured out? Is it ever going to click consistently?
What does your gut say?
My gut says no to this point because it hasn't happened.
Agree.
You're 7 games in. And sure, you'll have a splash play down the field throwing the football every now and again. But that was a part of the offense last year. And whether it's just not getting guys open, running behind the defense, scheming it up, whatever, maybe it's the quarterback. I think it's a contributing factor to all those things. But that's been my biggest surprise, is the lack of explosive plays this year. So,